Welcome to Dylan J. Sampson Explains, the show for all you lazy people who couldn't be bothered to read the book your damn selves. Today we'll be discussing Romeo and Juliet, the story of two star-crossed lovers who had one hell of a crazy weekend. Strap in. Two houses, both alike in dignity. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene, Romeo and Juliet starts off with a prologue introducing us to the world of the play. In this town, there are two rich families who are feuding. Why? F*** if I know, it's never explicitly mentioned. Their names are the Capulets and the Montagues. Everyone up to speed? Good. Let's get into the story. So some Capulet servants run into some Montague servants in the town square and a fight breaks out. Finally, the prince has to show up with his royal guard to break it up, and the prince is pissed. He's like, "Come on you guys, you're wrecking the whole town and I'm tired of cleaning up dead bodies." So the prince decrees from now on, anyone who kills someone will be put to death. Cut to the Montague household, where Romeo is sad because he can't be with the love of his life, the only woman he could ever possibly love, the most perfect and beautiful woman in the world, say it with me, Rosaline. Bet you didn't see that one coming. In fact, Romeo spends the entire first act whining about how much he loves Rosaline and how sad he is because she is giving him no play. You remember that girl in high school you were totally in love with, but she absolutely refused to acknowledge your existence? That's Rosaline. Over at the Capulet house, Paris is vying for the hand of Mr. Capulet's daughter, Juliet, but he says no because she's only 13. But come back in a year or two. Meanwhile, her mother and nurse are trying to sell her on the idea because apparently 13 is practically an old maid by 16th century standards. That night is the Capulet ball, and Romeo decides to attend because Rosaline will be there, and this might finally be his chance to win over his true love. His friends want him to go so he can hopefully get over her, but what are the odds of that happening? At the party, Romeo sees Juliet and instantly forgets about, what's her name? Rosemary or whatever. He walks over and literally the first thing he says is, "Can I kiss you?" But, you know, he says it all poetical and shit. She shoots him down at first, but he just keeps rephrasing the question until she gives in and they kiss. Then, do you remember that girl in high school you were totally in love with, but she refused to acknowledge your existence, but then her cousin let you get to first base at a party so she became your girlfriend? Juliet. Let that be a lesson to you kids. If you want a girl to say yes, sometimes you just gotta let her get all the no's out of the way. It's one to grow on. After the party, Romeo actually learns the name of the girl he just made out with, and it turns out she's the daughter of your mortal enemy. Oops. After learning his new love's name, Romeo does what any hormonal teenager would do. He stalks her. He climbs the wall around the house and sneaks into the garden under her window just in time for the balcony scene. And those three lines everyone knows but no one understands correctly. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? I'm only going to say this once. And then I'm going to say it 2 more times for comedic effect. Wherefore does not mean where. It means why. Wherefore always means why. Anytime you see wherefore being used in Shakespeare, it is being used synonymously as why. What she's saying is not, "Romeo, where are you?" but rather, "Why are you a Montague?" That's why the next line is, "Deny thy father, and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I shall no longer be a Capulet." She's saying, if you love me, give up your family. But if you don't want to, just say you'll be my boyfriend and I'll give up mine. That's Disney-style love right there. Eventually, Romeo can take it no more and reveals himself, professing his love for her. He tries to get invited in, but she's not giving it up on the first date. He's going to have to put a ring on it. So, the next day, he has his friend, Friar Laurence, marry them in secret. Meanwhile, everyone still thinks Romeo is in love with Rosaline and Juliet is betrothed to Paris. The next day, Benvolio and Romeo's best friend Mercutio are posted up in town when TYBALT rolls up looking to start a fight with Romeo. Romeo shows up and tries to squash the beef, but then Mercutio jumps in and the two of them start sword fighting. When Romeo tries to break them up, Mercutio ends up getting stabbed and dies. That's when Romeo flips out and kills TYBALT before fleeing the scene. The prince and the heads of both households show up and argue the situation. The Capulets want Romeo put to death, but the Montagues say he was justified because TYBALT killed MERCUTIO, who coincidentally was also the prince's cousin. The compromise is that Romeo gets to live as long as he never returns to Verona. Juliet is heartbroken when she finds out Romeo's been banished, although she's surprisingly okay with the fact that he killed her cousin. Romeo is also quite upset when Friar Laurence tells him he can never go home again. Luckily, with the help of the nurse, the couple is able to spend one last night together. While this is going on, Juliet's father finally accepts Paris's marriage proposal, and the wedding is set to take place in 3 days. Despite her objections, he tells her she must marry Paris or she'll be thrown out into the street. Juliet goes to Friar Laurence for help, and he gives her a potion that will help her fake her death by putting her in a coma for 2 days. He sends a messenger to bring Romeo word of their plans so that when she wakes, he can whisk her off into the sunset. She tells her father everything he wants to hear, and then takes the potion just before bed, surely to wake up alive and well in the morning. Quick side note about Friar Laurence and this plan. Why the hell does he just have some potion on deck that can help people fake their own deaths? Does he do this often? Is this what he means when he calls someone born again? So the next morning, Paris arrives for the wedding rehearsal, and it looks like the bride is dead. Win some, you lose some. Romeo is living out his exile in Mantua when his servant Balthazar arrives with the news of Juliet's death. He does not take it well. He heads back to Verona to confirm Juliet's death and stops at an apothecary along the way to pick up some poison so he can kill himself when he gets there. Meanwhile, Friar Laurence is preparing for her to wake up when his messenger returns to tell him he was unable to deliver the message to Romeo because he had been quarantined due to a health scare. Uh-oh. When Romeo arrives at the tomb, Paris is already there. The two of them fight to the death, and surprisingly, the guy whose name is in the title wins. After seeing Juliet's lifeless corpse, Romeo takes the poison and dies. Friar Laurence arrives just in time to be too late, as Juliet wakes up and sees her husband lying dead beside her. Friar Laurence hears the guards coming and advises her it's time to go. But she says, "I'll catch up," and after he leaves, she stabs herself with Romeo's dagger. The guards catch Friar Laurence, who tells them the whole story, and the two families finally agree it's time for peace. So in the end, less than a week has passed, and these two dumb kids are responsible for 6 deaths, including themselves and Romeo's mother, who died off stage from heartbreak due to her son's exile. That's why the actual title of this play is The Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, because it's not a story of two soulmates who prove the strength of love, but rather a cautionary tale about how blindly following lustful passion without thought of consequence can destroy lives. There are no heroes in this story, and nobody wins. The end. Thanks for watching, and join us next time when Dylan J. Sampson explains, when I'll be explaining Julius Caesar. Please like and comment this video on YouTube, then follow me on Twitter at Dylan J. Sampson, and check out Mangoseedproductions.com for more exciting content. Also, don't forget to leave suggestions for other stories you'd like me to explain. I'm Dylan J. Sampson. See you next time.